Well, we are back from the race. I have torn my bike down. It is packed. I'm just finishing up my luggage. I just spent the last 30 minutes trying to get the washing machine to work. Apparently, the water was shut off, so it wouldn't work. But I thought I'd do some post-race thoughts here with Tony first, and maybe I'll go into more detail race report later. But it was definitely a challenging course for me. Tony, I think, had a PR race, so it wasn't very challenging for him. It did rain the majority of the ride for me. Did it rain the majority of the ride for you?
Majority of the ride for me as well. Yeah.
So what did you think of the swim?
Swim overall I thought was good. The buoys were easily sighted. It was pretty overcast, and so we never had any sun in our eyes or any situation like that. I was kind of digging the point-to-point swim. Mm-hmm. That was cool. So yeah, overall water was good. Not too much chop.
The first time I've ever done a diving entry. Have you ever done a diving entry before?
No.
Yeah. So what'd they say it was? 1 meter? So about 3 feet?
Yeah.
Little, it's not a pier. I don't know what it was. Dock. There you go. Dock. And you started maybe 10 feet back. They would release you out of the chute, 10 athletes at a time, which is the most I've ever been released with. And you run about 10 feet, and you could either jump feet first or dive. I dove and had a great dive. I pulled my cap down kind of over the top of my goggles, had a great dive, but took a really bad line once I dove in. I was on the far right, and apparently I was swimming too far to the right, out of bounds. I could see the buoys to my left, but I didn't feel like I was that far away from them. But a boat came over and basically got in the front of me, and I had to kind of jog right to get around it. What did you think of this swim start?
I chose to dive and immediately filled my goggles with water and took about 15 strokes with my goggles filled with water, and then realized that I probably wasn't going to be very effective at swimming a straight line at that point. So flipped over my back for 2 strokes and then kind of pulled the goggles off and cleared them up and then went back to work. So
nice. Yeah, no, it was definitely, I didn't feel like the water was that choppy. Felt some chop, but it didn't feel bad.
No, I think like the last straight section was a little choppier.
When you made the turn to shore?
No, before that. So
when you were the furthest out in the water.
Right. So we go straight, turn left, and then we turn right. When that right turn before you make that final right, I thought that had the most chop in it.
Yeah.
It felt very open. Like you almost have to change your stroke to an open water stroke for that section.
Yep.
To grab water correctly.
Yeah. But overall, it felt definitely easy to see the buoys. And I mean, I don't know that I've ever swam a swim where the buoys are on your left for the first about 500 yards. I believe my watch buzzed right. I felt like right as we were making the turn for 500. And then it felt like it was basically 500, 500, 500, 500, right? I mean, it felt pretty even.
I don't have the watch, so I wouldn't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah, no, my watch was buzzing kind of on the turns. And I like the buoys that they had at this race. The turn buoys were the big triangle buoys with the Ironman logo on them, so you knew exactly what they were. And then the kind of the guiding buoys were actually kind of cylindrical,
they were
kind of tall.
They were tall cylinders.
Yeah, they were
really
orange. Yeah, it was really easy, which was cool. They don't do that in the U.S. They're usually just the standard kind of triangles.
Yeah.
So. All right, came out of the water. What do you think of the transition?
Transitions were long, right? Because they're trying to make everyone run the equal distance. I'd say it's very similar to like Oceanside, where you have to run all the way around transition before you can get to anything.
The flow was good though. They definitely forced you around, but then made everyone go the right direction with their bikes and things like that. They were very strict on that. Like they were making you go the right way.
And that's good because in some races you do end up with like people, trying to run up an aisle as you're trying to come out with your bike or something. And so keeping the flow all one direction traffic was cool.
Yeah, they had a ton of volunteers. I felt like this race, the people came out for it because there were so many volunteers.
Yeah.
In transitions, at the aid stations, along the course, they had people staged every intersection. People, I mean, pretty much for the most part on the bike, moving over to the bike, it was closed roads.
Yeah, I didn't see one car.
For 56 miles, they closed every road. Only vehicles I saw were support traffic. There were some vans out there, and then motorcycles.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
and as far as I saw, we had 2 refs, and one ref actually stayed with like kind of our group from like mile 24 to probably 50. Mm-hmm. And so kept everything really honest at the front end of the race, which I thought was awesome to see. And then there was like one bike for like roaming support, SAG type stuff.
I'd say for the most part it was rolling. I mean, there were climbs. It wasn't like you could carry. I didn't feel like you could really carry a lot of the momentum to the next hill that much, but they weren't super steep hills. They were just constant.
It was just constant hills, and I think I ended up with like 2,400 feet of gain.
Yeah, so definitely not in my favor. So it was probably one of my slower races I've done so far. I think I was just shy. I think I haven't even really looked at the results that closely. Maybe just shy of 21, and you killed that course.
Yeah, that I thought that really suited my strengths. One, because again the power to weight was really important for this type of course, but also I got that 56 big ring, so I could power down the descents.
Yeah, I was spinning out
where most people were spinning out, and
I was definitely spinning out.
I was catching so many people and just flying by. Anytime we had any type of descent, because they would again spin out, probably the same situation you were running into.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely was spun out a lot. Pretty much every decline or every long, because they were gradual enough that you could stay aero, and they weren't super technical. I wouldn't say it was pretty straight. I mean, Did it rain the entire time you were on the bike, or did it start raining later?
No, like right when we got on the bike, the sprinkles started. But yeah, with the more we headed out of the city, the worse the rain got, and so like I think like the back end of the course was probably the worst of it.
Yeah, I would say maybe it was raining harder by the time I started 2 hours later. But I mean, there were points where the water was hurting my face, like it was like pelting. So I was like tucking way down to try and stop it from hitting me in the chin or I was like, God, is this hail? But I guess when you're going fairly fast, it hurts.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I will say it's a beautiful course. The sunflower fields, you come by and there's this, they must grow sunflowers there, right? It must be a farm. And just all of these sunflowers out in this field that was on your right. So
That was beautiful. That was cool. That was cool to see. But overall, just the course in general was beautiful.
The roads were really good.
The roads were really good, and you could tell that where they had put an effort to like fix all the like imperfections for the most part.
Did you ride over any of those?
I did, and they were super smooth.
Slick. Yeah, they had these sections that would be 10, 20 feet long, and at first I was avoiding them, but when you hit them, they were like, they weren't slippery, but they were just so nice and slick. So I just started aiming for them.
Yeah. No, it was really nice. I mean, they appeared to be just a darker section.
Yep.
And once you hit them, the road noise just went silent. It was just like, whoosh.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
There was only one section I felt like where there was orange paint around a bunch of cracks.
Yeah.
Like they didn't repair that section for some reason.
Right. But there were signs there too. So there was
it was definitely obvious, and they had outlined it with paint.
Yeah.
So, But T2
again, another long transition. I thought it was cool to be inside.
Yeah, no, it was definitely cool to go in a building, to be in like a convention center. So you're out of the weather, and you're running around in a building essentially.
Yeah, and so I thought that was cool. I got no real other thoughts on T2.
Yeah, like you said, it was long, and then out on the run, and we talked about it a little bit. There was one major hill, I would say, pretty much the gradual climb out at the beginning.
Yeah, of each loop.
Yeah, which started maybe a mile in, right? I mean, you had to go over the big man-made bridge, which actually, it wasn't that big a deal.
It wasn't that bad.
No, it looked
really
so bad, but it
Yeah.
actually, I passed so many people every time I would go over that bridge. Especially going to the finish line, everybody, like, because you had to do it 3 times. We said 2, but we were wrong. The 3rd time, you had to hit it one last time before going to the finish line, and everybody stopped, and it was just like, I'm hammering this thing to try and make up, gain spots.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I first started the run, the first time I went over that was probably the slowest, because my feet were numb and frozen.
And I was it actually made me cramp the first time I went over it. When I went over it, I felt the down slope. Like I could feel my quads all of a sudden, they were like fire, like, oh no, it's like seizing up. But then you go down that and you go right into the arena and you're on the track.
Yeah,
and
which is super, super nice.
Yeah, I felt like I kind of high kicked a little bit. I just, and kind of flushed it out.
Yeah.
So.
But then I guess the elevation actually starts right when you climb out of the stadium, right? Because then you have the kind of the false flat before you make that turn, and then the real climb starts. I guess the sustained climb for the first, again, from mile 1 to like 3.5, something like that.
Yeah.
But then the back half of each lap, the majority's downhill. You could really take advantage of it as long as, again, you can maintain your footing and kind of, let yourself just fall and not really try and brake. I think anyone who's trying to brake was having issues with their quads.
Yeah, I know it hurt if you didn't just take it and go with it. Yeah, and yeah, definitely that section, that first couple of miles, right? It's slow. You're watching your pace was down for me. It was like 8:30s, and I was just trying to hold. I was running it slower. I was definitely running it closer to probably 10, but my miles, I think I was fast enough pre and then fast enough post that I ended up, not running that, 10s. It ended up being faster than that. But yeah, you just kind of have to hammer that section out and get through it. And then, after that, it felt like you were running downhill almost the rest of the way. There were some little punchy hills here and there, but it felt like, to me, it felt like the race would be a negative total. Obviously, it can't be because we started and ended in the same place.
Right.
But I think maybe it was just so steep, and then it was just, they just used that all, it was just downhill for a really long time.
Yeah. I think overall, I mean, the trail section was really nice too, right? I think the crushed gravel was a nice mix in.
Yeah, I was dreading it when it was raining. I was thinking, oh my God, it's going to be, I wasn't sure, right? Was it going to be muddy?
Yeah.
Was it going to feel sticky, right? Because, if it's any sort of clayish, right, it gets real sticky. And I was worried that it was just going to be a mess. And I thought it was going to be really long. But it wasn't very long. I mean, it felt like it went really fast.
Yeah, I made up a lot of ground through those sections. I mean, my 2 slowest miles were 1 and 2 of the run. Again, I couldn't feel my feet till probably mile 3, and I stopped right after mile 1 to use porta potty. Right, I felt like there was no point in trying to hold it, and so I just figured if I just go pee now, get out of the way, I'm good for the rest of the run. And that was, I think, the right decision for me. I probably lost like 20 seconds stopping the porta potty, and that mile was a 7:10, which was the slowest mile of the day.
Yeah, you hammered.
And then, I think because we previewed that that section.
Yeah, we ran that during our practice runs.
Yeah,
during the week. A couple times.
And so, it just felt very familiar, and I knew what to expect. So I basically just settled into a good effort. I wanted to sustain the effort more than anything, and especially through the first lap, and then that second lap, I just kind of let it rip.
Yeah, it was surprising that first. It just felt short, and I feel like maybe because of the variety that we had. Right, you had the long hill, and then you had lots of downhill. Then you ended up at the lake.
Right.
And you're running, and it's just beautiful water. You're running in these neighborhoods, and people are out there on their driveways cheering. And then you end up dumping down eventually and going into the park.
Right.
And so, and the park section, there's a little out and back, right? And got there and it was just so fast. And then it's just you're just beeline straight all the way back down this trail, essentially this crushed gravel, all the way back to transition.
Yeah. And I felt like, again, most people were taking that easy, and me, like, I think a trail runner at heart. I love trail. And so knowing that section was there, I just kind of made me smile. But I think I made most of my ground in that section.
Yeah, no. Well, you definitely crushed it. You think this was a PR day for you? I mean, obviously not the fastest you've done, because Oregon, you've had a current swim, right? I don't really even count my, when I consider my fastest, yes, Oregon was my fastest, but I mean with a non-current swim.
Right. With an honest course.
Yep. Very honest.
This is a PR.
Too honest.
Yeah. So, Oregon was 4:11. This was a 4:26.
Yep.
And even I was looking back at Monterey, because unofficially, or I got DQ'd in that one. That's another story for another day.
But you're gonna have to tell that on the podcast. I did not know he got DQ'd. I've been DQ'd. I didn't realize that Mr. Elite was DQ'd.
So
you and Lionel have something in common.
Yeah. Bullshit refs. That's the common denominator there. So yeah, now I look back and that was a 4:28.
Okay.
So this is still.
What'd you do today?
4:26.
2 minutes. 4:26.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. Whole different ballpark over here. But for me, I would say the ride was tough. Definitely wasn't in my favor. Like I said, I think I did just under 21, which is one of my slowest. I have to look at St. George to see if that might have been a little slower. St. George definitely felt harder, I think. Although there was just really one big climb in St. George, right? I mean, it was the rolling wasn't that bad, I felt like, in St. George. This felt just relentless to me. Obviously, you had a great bike, but for me, it just felt like it was kind of a constant, I don't know. It definitely hammered my legs more than I felt like St. George.
I think St. George has there's 3 distinct climbs in there. Obviously, Snow Canyon being the longest and most sustained. This was just very punchy. Like, there were just a bunch of small, punchy climbs. It did force me to get out of the saddle a few times. Yeah,
it was a constant debate of, do I stay arrow in this? I'm still going fast enough, or I've slowed down. Should I sit up? Do I stand up? Right? There was a constant battle in my mind of what should I do for this hill.
Yeah, I was pretty much monitoring my speed, and then kind of determining whether or not it was time to just pop out or not, and also just an excuse to stretch my back.
Mm-hmm.
So. And just use some different muscle groups too, because my glutes were actually early on. My glutes were already starting to kind of tighten up or feel tight, and that was by mile 8. And so I thought it was just gonna be a long day at that point, but I kind of worked myself into it. So
yeah, I definitely went through a period where maybe halfway through, because I was counting down to get to mile 28, and at that point it was like, man, I'm struggling. This is hard, and I felt like there were a couple of climbs I came out of that I didn't have any more power. Like, we got on a flat and it just felt like I couldn't get up to speed. But then, I don't know, once we hit mile 30 or 35, I felt pretty good the rest of the ride.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was kind of riding by feel for the most part. I mean, we had targets in mind, and kind of the thought again was to kind of overbike on purpose and just see what my legs had at the end of it. But so I went through the first 28 in 108. And then I went to take nutrition out of my jersey pocket in the back, and I was as I was bringing it around, I dropped my pill case because my hands were so cold and numb. I didn't have the dexterity in my fingers.
Yeah.
And when I went to just bring it around, I dropped it. And so at that point I was like, okay, well, I can't keep pushing the way I was pushing earlier, because now I know I'm going to be short. So let me back off a bit. So I ended up backing off a bit for the final, and then ended up obviously positive splitting the bikes. I finished with a 221.
So fast.
So
fast.
Yeah.
Well, the one positive, there's a lot of positive, but one of the biggest things for me that came out of it was I ran faster at this race than I did 3 weeks ago in Oregon on a much easier, I felt, much flatter course. Definitely the negative, I think, helped a lot. Probably gained some speed, but this course felt more, maybe a little more taxing than Oregon. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. I mean, just even going downhill is more taxing on your legs than just staying flat all the time.
Well, not only that, but like running in rain is going to slow you down anyway.
Yeah.
You're not getting the same traction and momentum through each step. So yeah, and I've raced Oregon. I think that's definitely an easier to run fast course. It's a warmer course, but other than that, Oregon is definitely the easier course. So I would say you ran faster on a more challenging course.
Yeah, so that was definitely a positive takeaway for me, is that even though it's only been 3 weeks, that there was a little bit of progress. I was slower on the bike, and I felt like it was more taxing, this bike, but so I'm making a little progress on the run. I was hoping I could get it under 8s, get in the 7s, but it was, I think, 8:04s is what I ended up running. So what did you run? Is this something ridiculous?
What I run?
Yeah.
I was trying to go sub 120. I wanted sub 125 on this course, knowing I was going to overbike, and so I ended up 125.16, I think.
So what is that pace?
I honestly don't know. I didn't really look at that. It was 6:30 something, probably.
So fast. So fast. Freaking fast. Any other closing thoughts?
Volunteers were amazing.
Oh my God.
I gotta just give it for volunteers. I mean, crossing the finish line, had again a volunteer kind of assist
guide you
through each station, then hand you off, and that was
the perfect. Food line. By the time I got there, I mean, there's probably nobody there at the finish by the time you got there. But when I got there, it was so long and just was not moving. So I stood there for maybe, I don't know, what felt like 10 minutes and just gave up because I didn't even make one step into any closer. So then I went and bought hot dogs outside because I didn't want to stand in line.
Yeah.
And they ended up opening it. They kept I think they have to keep transition closed until the last biker got in, right? So it was scheduled for 3:50, but maybe 3:50, which is late. But also, the last wave didn't start till 9:45, where most races are probably done by then, right?
Yeah.
They're not starting at 9:45 still. Yeah. So, but it went smooth. Once it opened, it was very, I think it was spread out enough that you kind of went through each stage. And, I mean, we were in and out, got all our bags, bike, everything pretty fast.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem. Again, worked really efficiently. I thought, again, kudos to the volunteers. I thought, again, they kind of made it seamless.
Yeah. Well, cool. Do it again if it was ever here again?
I would love to stay longer and actually explore the city more. This is a beautiful city.
Yeah.
I just think so many options and so much to do if it's not raining. I think that's the biggest thing. But also, man, that course was awesome. I would love to have a route like that back home where you could just kind of ride that every week.
Yeah, you got to wonder how many cars are on that route normally when it's all open,
right?
And how safe it would be, because some of those roads were really narrow. If you haven't seen, there's some small little roads, and Lionel got disqualified for going over an imaginary middle line. So there were small roads, but they were completely closed. So I don't know how much they like cyclists here, or how that would be when it's open.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very cyclist friendly, and
yeah, there's definitely amazing bike paths.
Right. So I would think that the cars and the car traffic are kind of used to cyclists out here, and so that they'd be pretty understanding. But yeah, some of those roads are pretty narrow, so I don't know how they would pull that off on a normal day-to-day basis. Yeah.
So I don't do international races unless it's like a world championship. I'm not probably going to do an international race just to come race here. But I mean, if you're local in Europe, I'd say it's definitely a good race.
This is one to, I think, put on your calendar for sure. I think the course is different from what
the normal
Lahti race.
It'd be interesting to go look and see how different it is.
Yeah, but other than that, I would totally come back here.
Oh. Well, cool. I think that's it. I think this just might be the race recap video. I'm just going to be lazy and not do anything else. That way it doesn't take me 3 weeks to get this out like Oregon did. Well, it was awesome staying with you, man.
Yeah, that was a good time.
He hooked me up. If I didn't stay here, I probably would not have come because there was pretty much nowhere to stay unless I wanted to be in Helsinki, and I want to make that hour commute over and over and over. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. And this was a cool spot. I thought, like, walking distance to the village, and kind of allowed us to, explore a little bit and not be too far from everything that was going on.
So I guess just have to qualify for New Zealand and start looking for an Airbnb.
Yeah, well, I didn't qualify here. 64th in the age group isn't gonna cut it.
I don't even want to look where I finished. I'm not gonna even admit to what I was.
But I did look. I was the third American in my age group, so that's
there you go.
I'll take that as a small victory.
Yes. Well, cool. Well, hopefully there's some New Zealand qualifier. You don't even have another 70.3 planned.
I don't. Cabo's kind of in limbo right now. That's probably going to be the one that I would go to if I did. That's in November, so we'll kind of see what shakes out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I've got 8 weeks until Arizona, then another maybe 8 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 4 or 6 weeks for La Quinta, and then Morro Bay is my one race on the calendar for 2023. Come to Morro Bay. It's cold. Wait, is that where you got disqualified?
No, I got disqualified in Monterey.
Oh, Monterey.
Mexico.
Oh, I want to do that race though, but
you want the quick story?
Sure.
So, Monterey, Mexico is apparently a windy city. Ironman doesn't allow discs in 2 races. You can't race discs in Kona, and you can't race discs in Cozumel. That's known. It's a fact. There's no way around it, right? So I travel to Monterey in my bike box. I can carry 2 rear wheels, but I'm only racing on disc, and so I took my disc, show up basically the day before the race for bike check-in, and they say that no discs are allowed. And so I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you do for all these people that travel internationally with 1 wheel? Like, you can't just announce the day before the race that you can't use a disc.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's in the athlete guide. And so I checked the athlete guide, and the one that they had originally printed out didn't say anything about no discs. And basically it said elites could use a disc and age groupers could not. And then so they tried to find me some wheels. They basically had some shitty options that I wasn't going to trust, because I figured if I flat on these things, or if one of these wheels causes me to crash and I screw up my bike, I'd be really upset. And so I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to race with my equipment. And they said, sure, you can do that, but we're just going to disqualify you. So they allowed me to get my results. That's cool. So I do have a record of what I have, but if you look on the tracker, it says I was disqualified. And that race I would have been, I think, second in my age group and 8th overall. So that was actually a good day, but doesn't count.
Bummer. Well, no discs then.
No discs in Monterey. If you do Monterey.
All right. Well, I just got a text from my ride that they are done eating and on the way to the car, and the washer just stopped that I was screwing around with. So now I got to try and dry my stuff before they get here and pack up my luggage. And they're only probably 20 minutes away, if that. So we got to end this video now. So thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for all of it.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe.